It's been quite a long time between bouts for Street Fighter fans, but now Street Fighter 6 brings with it more classic roadside-based pugilism than you can shake an arcade stick at. It features an impressive roster of fighters, a robust online offering, as well as a whole new ambitious open-world single-player mode, which feels like an unearthed PS2 game that probably should have stayed buried. To start off, I confess, I fall more into the filthy casual fighting game fan category. I love beating up my mates in your Mortal Kombats, Tekkens and Street Fighters as much as the next person. Unless of course the next person owns a fighting stick and can actually remember more than one simple combo, in which case they definitely like fighting games more than me. Anytime I see a menu full of combos longer than 3 inputs to learn, my brain instantly shuts down and I just accept that button mashing is my lot in life. So I very much appreciated the new modern control scheme in Street Fighter 6. This basically lets you pull off all of the fancy moves without having to do much more than simply hold down the trigger, a direction, and mash attack.
What's wrong? Get up!
Or there's even the dynamic control scheme, which removes even the need to do that much. Button mash and ye shall Hadouken. It's a great way to bridge the gap between the hardcore and casual players, so you might now stand half a chance at landing some cool moves on your mate who spends way too much time practicing. They'll still kick your butt though, and the dynamic controls are off limits in certain modes and online battles. Also making an appearance is the new drive mechanic. Using your drive gauge, represented by these recharging bars below your health, you can pull off powerful and colourful attacks, super arts, parries, or just use it as a powerful block. But if you use it all up, you enter burnout mode, which leaves you vulnerable to getting stunned. It's an easy to use system that adds some great flair, risk and reward, and depth to the tactics on offer in each fight. All up, the fighting in Street Fighter 6 feels better than ever. It's responsive and impressive, with a great range of different fighting styles, classic characters, and new faces to choose from. There are 3 main modes to flex your muscles in, with the online battle hub, the more traditional core arcade modes in Fighting Ground, and the new World Tour single-player adventure. Now, I love the idea of World Tour, an ambitious single-player Street Fighter adventure with an open world to explore. Sign me up. But the reality of it left me unimpressed. Here, you create your own fighter in a character creator that gives you way more control than you really should get. But it's probably the part of World Tour that I enjoyed the most. After you've created your fighter, you're let loose in Metro City under the guidance of your coach Luke, in search of strength.
If both of us are trying to find that strength, sooner or later one of us is going to get there first. What happens to the other person then?
Yes, that's pretty much the thrust of the plot. You're looking for strength. I did enjoy the ridiculously over-the-top campy energy on display and just the ridiculousness of it all, and while it can be fun to run into well-known characters, I never found myself actually caring about them or the overall story. To go about your search for strength, you wander the streets, picking a fight with almost anyone you want, or dealing with the city's various thugs who wear cardboard boxes on their heads for reasons. All while answering texts and taking missions, which usually involve just going somewhere and beating someone up to get a thing. As you fight, you get XP and money, letting you grow your character through upgrades, new moves, and new gear. And you'll also come across other Street Fighter characters who can become your master, letting you take on their movesets. And eventually even mix and match moves to create your own unique style. But the RPG mechanics and the need to grind for XP just didn't work for me here at all. I love fighting games for pitting 2 or more or less equal fighters with different movesets against each other, not for making it just impossible to beat someone because they're 20 levels higher than you. Exploring the city can be tedious too, thanks to said goons. They litter the streets and will always run up to you to start fights, drawing you into battles. I once found myself in some back alleys trying to find a quest, and I ended up stuck in an almost endless loop of goon fights, as the goons would simply respawn as soon as I finished fighting with them. It was only through some wily scampering around that I managed to get around them and break the cycle. Meanwhile, the city itself is just a bit of a bland and uninteresting area to explore, and it looks bafflingly average. I did seem to have some bug during the review period that made most of the textures and even 3D models look like they were from a 64 game, but thankfully a day one patch fixed that. So if some of the textures look bad in the footage, know that they look better in the final game. But even after the patch, the world still feels a bit dull and just unimpressive. And despite that, it still has frame rate drops when you get into fights too. You do also get the chance to fly to various destinations, but these are little more than a literal single location with a locked off camera where you have a quick fight and can talk to a handful of characters. All the locations just feel pretty basic. While I'm sure some may enjoy the grind, for me it made the World Tour mode fail at being a fun, casual mode I wanted to spend time in, and it turns into more of an over-the-top time sink for diehards, who I'm sure will no doubt get a kick of some of the interactions with classic characters and just simply having a world full of people to punch on with, but it wasn't for me. Thankfully, the more traditional core modes in Fighting Ground fare much better. Here you have access to your usual arcade mode, where you pick a fighter and go either 5 or 12 rounds through a little story, while beating up a truck along the way. It does seem like all the effort for the story and cutscenes went into World Tour though, so all you get here are some simple little cartoons with a bit of voiceover. But the fighting is at least excellent. There's also a healthy range of extra modes here, from training and drills to extreme battles that let you add in a variety of silly modifiers and gimmicks, like adding a rampaging bull that runs through the match. There's also now a new commentary feature too, which adds in some AI commentary to make it feel like you're in the middle of a tournament.
Right off the bat, there's no hesitation. They start the offensive by charging forward. Brushes that off and keeps going.
It works pretty well with it reacting to the action fairly naturally, but still, it's not something I think I need in my fights. So thankfully, it's optional whether you want it on or not. And for those who like to take their fighting online, the Battle Hub features all you could want from casual to ranked matches, and even lets you play some Capcom arcade classics. I love the arcade vibe of the Battle Hub. People sit at cabinets waiting for games, while a literal arcade full of classic games is available to mess around with. And for those who do enjoy the World Tour mode, you can even bring in your fighter for avatar battles, bring in all your stats and gear too, which does at least add some value to the World Tour grind. Sadly for us Aussies, the best server option we have seems to be located in Asia, and the game even warns you that it may be a bit of a rough connection. But thankfully there's some great netcode going on, so even though I could only find matches with over 200 milliseconds of ping, it at least never felt laggy to my fingers, and my terribleness did feel like it was my own fault, as much as I would love to blame lag. Overall, Street Fighter VI offers a smorgasbord of punch-on action. While the World Tour mode disappointed, the core fighting is better than ever, and the new control schemes and drive mechanics add a lot of depth while making it more accessible to everyone. If you like to fight, it's a no-brainer. Play.
This is the power of a yoga master.
Ah, so that's your vibe, is it? I like it. You got it. Not in a bad way, of course. In an amazing way.